Once he's dead, everything will be ours. The houses, the accounts, the business.
You and I will finally be free. I can't wait to be with you freely.
Since you refuse to spend your money on me, I'll spend it over your dead body.
I can't wait till when you die, so I'll inherit everything and live the life I want.
Why can't I access my late husband's account? Why? Because you don't deserve it. I don't even know what my brother saw in you in the first place. I've never really trusted you. I loved your brother. You loved him or his money? I'm his wife, for goodness sake. I should be the one inheriting all those properties, not you. This isn't fair. I really do not have time to start bantering words with you. Please leave before I call security on you.
The man she had spent months secretly poisoning had protected his fortune long before he died. She had risked everything for money that was never hers to take. This is a story of how greed disguises itself as love. Chiamaka married Obinna the year his business finally became the success everyone had predicted. She had married for many reasons. Love was somewhere on that list, though not necessarily at the top of it. Obinna was a genuinely wealthy man, but he was not a man who wore his wealth loudly. He reinvested in his business instead of buying things that only impressed people for an afternoon. Every time Chiamaka asked for something lavish, Obinna's answer was gentle, but always the same. We already have everything we need, Chiamaka. I am building something that will still be standing long after both of us. Chiamaka smiled every time he said it, but something quieter than his smile was always sitting underneath.
What Chiamaka did not fully understand was that Obinna's caution had not always been his nature. Years earlier, his own uncle had handed control of the family's assets to a relative who spent lavishly and trusted no one with the details. That relative drained the family's wealth within a few short years and disappeared the moment it was gone. Obinna had watched his own father grow old trying to rebuild what one person's greed had destroyed. So when Obinna finally built his own fortune, he made a quiet decision no one had to talk him out of. He placed the bulk of his wealth into a family trust administered not by his spouse but by his sister, Ijeoma. He told Chiamaka only that the money was protected for the family. He never explained exactly what that meant. She never asked.
It was around this time that Chiamaka met Dubem at a friend's engagement party. Dubem was charming, attentive, and always full of talk about the life she deserved. A woman like you should not be sitting in an old car pretending it's humility. You are wasting your best years on his caution. Chiamaka told herself she was only listening, but she kept listening more and more often. The affair deepened quietly, hidden behind late meetings and long drives that were never quite explained. Every conversation with Dubem fed the same growing idea that she was owed a life Obinna was refusing to give her. Resentment, given enough time and enough encouragement, does not stay still. It moves towards something. By the time the idea became a plan, Chiamaka no longer thought of it as something monstrous. She thought of it as something old. Over several weeks, Obinna began feeling unwell in ways that made no clear sense to his doctors. Chiamaka played the devoted, worried wife with a steadiness that unsettled no one. Doctors ran tests, nothing conclusive came back. Illness, they assumed, sometimes simply defies explanation. Obinna grew weaker by the week, and Chiamaka grew, in the privacy of her own thoughts, closer to what she believed was finally coming. Obinna passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning, in his own bed, in the home he had built with such careful restraint. The funeral was large, respectful. The whole community came to honor a man they had genuinely admired. Chiamaka wept at the graveside, and to everyone watching, the grief looked completely real. In a private corner of herself, it was not grief she was feeling. It was relief, dressed carefully in black. She believed completely that her long wait was finally over.
2 weeks later, the family gathered for the formal reading of Obinna's will. Chiamaka sat at the front, composed, already imagining the accounts, the properties, the freedom she believed were finally hers.
The lawyer explained carefully that the properties, the accounts, and the business shares were held inside a family trust. A trust administered entirely and legally by Obinna's sister, Ijoma. Chiamaka would receive reasonable maintenance for her needs. Nothing close to the fortune she had imagined. No access to the capital itself. The room went very quiet. Chiamaka's carefully composed grief cracked just slightly into something closer to panic. She had killed for a fortune that had never legally belonged to her husband to give away in the first place. In the weeks that followed, Chiamaka's desperation began to show in ways that were impossible to ignore. She pressured Ijoma repeatedly, demanding faster access to funds meant for the family's long-term care. I am his widow, Ijoma. That money should be moving to me, not sitting in an account with your name attached to it.
Ijoma had never fully trusted Chiamaka.
Now, watching this specific kind of urgency, her quiet suspicion sharpened into something else. Chiamaka went further, contacting the bank directly, attempting to contest the trust through a lawyer of her own. It was this aggressive, uncharacteristic urgency, more than any single suspicious detail, that finally made Ijoma ask a harder question. What if her brother's death had not been as natural as everyone had assumed? Ijoma quietly requested a second, more thorough medical review, working with Inspector Bassi to reopen the case. The new toxicology review found what the first round of tests had missed entirely. Traces of poison, administered slowly over weeks, consistent with the pattern of Obinna's decline.
Inspector Bassi began tracing purchases, timelines, and access, all of it circling steadily back to one person. The affair surfaced next. Messages, meetings, motive, all of it fitting together with uncomfortable precision. Officers arrived at Chiamaka's home on a quiet afternoon, exactly the way such arrivals always seem to happen, without warning and without mercy for the timing. Chiamaka was arrested for the murder of her husband, right there in the compound he had built so carefully. She called Dubem from the station, certain he would come, certain he would fight for her the way he had once promised. Dubem did not answer. By the time the news reached the papers, he had already disappeared from the city entirely. The man she had poisoned her marriage for wanted no part of what came after.
No husband, no inheritance, no lover waiting outside, no freedom left to spend on any of it. Ijoma stood outside the courthouse on the day of the trial's opening, composed, carrying the quiet weight of protecting exactly what her brother had feared losing. Obinna's caution, the very thing Chiamaka had resented for years, was the one thing that outlived her greed. He had built something meant to survive exactly this kind of hunger. In the end, he did.